Welcome to the Agency Uplift podcast, where we go past the highlight reel and dig into what actually builds a strong digital agency. That's clear foundations, better decisions, and the courage to scale on purpose. I'm your host, Sean Lang, co-founder of Social Commerce Club and advisor to agency owners like you. And today I'm joined by James Kwon, founder and CEO of Figmints. Now, Figmints is a full-service digital creative agency that specializes in interactive execution. I'm sure you're going to tell us all about what that means. James, great to have you on.
Yeah, thanks so much, Sean, for having me.
Absolutely. So why don't you tell us a bit about Figmints?
Sure. So Figments was my freelance name. I started it back in 99. I tell people 99 because it makes it sound, super, has that longevity to it. And started back in 99 before interactive design was a thing. I like to call myself one of the first UI UX designers because that title didn't even exist. And yeah, worked at agencies all across the Northeast. Worked on brands like Mini Cooper, Virgin Mobile, Puma. I was employee number 5 at CVS.com, helped them launch their first responsive site. So that was
Nice.
cool. Back when .com was like, maybe this is a channel we should focus on. I think there's like 500 people now on .com team. 4 million people a day use CVS.com, which is pretty cool.
Wow.
And started the agency 15 years ago. We're going to celebrate our quinceañera this year, 2026. So super excited for that. And yeah, we're about 15 to 20 people or so. Amazing people all around the world. We went fully virtual after COVID, and we are a full service digital creative agency. So usually crafting the right story, connecting to the right audience, building the world that story lives in, branding, websites, video, and then building a system to bring people to that story and get results. So that's a program.
Very cool. What types of clients do you work with?
Yeah, so we've been pretty across the board. Probably a third of our clients are in the nonprofit space, a third financial professional services space, and a third in kind of miscellaneous other manufacturing, software, SaaS, other, et cetera. And really excitingly in 2026, I think we're going to finally make the niche jump. We started to niche down into sub brands, but I think one of the most valuable brands that we're kind of focusing on now is a brand called Alchemy, which is a scalable marketing platform for business groups, B2B2C companies. So that's kind of the main target that we're going after.
Very, very cool. I'm sure we'll dig into that at some
Sure.
point. But first though, so it sounds like you've been early to a lot of things. But the question I always love to ask, because it's different for everyone, is why did you decide to start an agency? I mean, there's freelancing is one thing, but
Sure.
actually then turning it into a business model and creating a team, like why did you start an agency?
Yeah, it's so good. I wish it was well planned. It was not. I was living in Rhode Island at the time in Providence and commuting to Boston because there's bigger jobs up in Boston. It's about an hour and a half commute from train, maybe an hour 45 door to door. And while I was commuting on my way up to Boston, I would be working on Figments and my side projects, and then clock in 9 to 5 or so at the agencies that I worked at. And all of a sudden, my portfolio started just growing. The name got out. We were starting to land bigger and bigger deals. And I did the math, and at the time, my partner, who was a developer, he was still in school. I convinced him that I did the math, and I was like, "Hey, I think we could do like a 250,000 in our first year if we did this full time." And so I convinced him to quit school, and I quit my job, and we kind of set out on this adventure together. And with the caveat, like, yeah, if everything goes wrong, we can try to get jobs later. So we gave it a real shot, and we hit that number, our target number, in July of our first year. So we
Wow.
almost doubled it in our first year, which is amazing. And then the following year, right around the beginning of the year, we had to pay something called taxes. I'd never heard of, and
Yep.
it was miserable. I remember we paid this huge tax bill, and we ran payroll, and we had $347 left in the bank account. And I prayed a lot. I'm a person of faith, and so like I prayed a lot. I cried a lot. I was like, "Oh no, what's like? I'm terrible at this." And I had this peace ultimately you know what, this is God's business. Whatever you want to do with this business, I'm okay with. We'll get other jobs. We'll be fine. And I guess God wanted us to continue because we signed a couple things, and we kind of have grown since then about 20% year over year. And the thing that I fell in love with, Sean, was business. I started in design. I actually have a degree in culinary, and so I started my creative journey in culinary. Um, I liked culinary. It wasn't the best place for me to be creative. I loved design, graphic design, UI UX. I was like, wow, this is cool. There's a lot more, levers to pull. Added marketing as a service. Like, whoa, this is cool. Even more levers to pull. And then really business. I was like, wow, this is great. I love this game. I started to become a student of the game for business itself, like reading lots of business books and kind of falling in love with, yeah, the sport of it. The keeping score, um, building businesses, building a team, building values, building, uh, going in the same direction, trying to make movement and progress, like building this automaton, right? That kind of runs itself. So that was the fun part of it.
That really, really resonates with me. I've said that a few times on this podcast, but I didn't ever set out to start any kind of business whatsoever. Like
Yeah,
I come from the music world. I was always going to be a professional musician, and I'm really glad I didn't pursue that because AI is kind of making that
it's
go
wild.
away,
Yeah,
and that's a completely separate rabbit hole for maybe a different podcast. But um, I was so pleasantly surprised when I finally took the jump into entrepreneurship when I realized, oh, this is actually so much more creative than I
yeah.
thought it was. Because I always viewed, kind of business as like the opposite of creativity. And if anything, especially early stage business is I don't think there's anything as creative as early stage business because you are defining everything from zero. You're creating from nothing. And
Mhm.
not only that, but it's gamified, which then ticks that additional dopamine box that maybe creativity by itself doesn't always, where you just create a bunch of stuff and that kind of sits on the shelf. So super, super resonates with me. I was really interested to hear you say that. Back to your journey in those first years. So clearly, the first year you had some assumptions. If we can only hit 250,000, this will be a success, and you hit that in 7 months. What were some early assumptions there that clearly were maybe a little bit off, a little bit wrong, and how
Often
did
the
that change over time?
off in a good way, you mean like
Off in a good way, it sounds like.
exceeding
Yeah.
it? Yeah, so, I had a small book of business, about for about 6 to 8 months, before I left my full-time job. I went part-time and, very lucky to have an understanding, boss who was open to that. I don't think he probably has heard that before, like, "Oh, I'm gonna pursue these side gigs that I got going on," and, I turned out to be probably more capable than he thought, or else he if I were him, I would have given a young whippersnapper a more opportunity to do that stuff under the umbrella, right? So, which we've done, like I've learned my lesson, and I have some stories around that too. But yeah, the thing that this, Sean, and most growing entrepreneurs know this. Uh, Business is a fun game. It's a great game. It's a difficult game, like you said. It's super creative. You have to start from scratch, and there's probably no other objective that is more important in business, as especially when you're small, than sales. You have to figure out how to sell. So one of my founding stories is, back then I would just respond to Craigslist posts, and so like Craigslist was it back then. It was like a ton of traffic. I forgot, at some point it was 30-40% of all web traffic or something. So a lot of traffic was going through Craigslist. People who needed websites or logos or marketing help or whatever, they would just post it. So it was this incredible, white page, yellow pages listing of what people need. And we're in a relatively small market, so Providence, there'd be like 3 or 4 posts, maybe 5, 6 posts a week. And so I'd start to post to those. The closest markets to us, Hartford, Worcester, and Boston. And so I'd start to respond to those two. And so I'd be sending out my resume with all my personal information. It's probably not the best idea at the time. I'd send that out and a note out that says like, "Hey, I'd love to help out with this." And felt like a small freelancer who was doing that, and I was. And I started sending out 30, 40, 50, 100 a week or so. And then there was this little box at the bottom of Craigslist that said, uh, telecommuting okay at the time. And if people check that box, I found an aggregate resource that saw all of the Craigslist all together. And so I would see does uh, scores of listings every day. And so I would start to send out 40, 50 a day. And then people call back. And I got really good at talking to the weirdest people on the planet. It was like, just like dealing with sales discussions, like live workshopping. What if I said this? What if I said this? How about if I said it this way? What if I sell it for $10, $50, $100? And so that that being thrown into the fire to really kind of workshop sales and think through that was something I didn't expect, but it was pivotal to helping us grow. I was able to disconnect to this was real quick. The second part, that was number one, sales, sales, sales. Number two, I think most, I call them practitioners, people who are like savvy designers, developer, whatever your profession is, your trade, people who break off and do their own thing. They often get stuck at that 200, 300, 400K mark because they're not able to let go of the work. And so they need to keep doing the work. I didn't feel that at all when I started Figmints. I was like, I know I need to keep doing sales or else we're not going to make it. So I'm going to just keep doing sales. We hired somebody to do design. Our level of threshold of quality kind of had to drop a little bit, or else I would be the one stuck having to do it. And so for me, it was more important for us to grow the business than for it to be the best it could possibly be. But, and I kind of go back and forth about whether that's the right path. But
It sounds like,
yeah.
given how things have gone for you, it sounds like it was the right path.
Yeah. I mean, this is a whole nother discussion, but I have a philosophy called, there's this fork in the road. Do you want to be rich or do you want to be king? And, or do you want to be rich or do you want to be royalty? And if you want to be royalty and have a lifestyle business and it's you and you want to charge $500 an hour and, get to that point, great. You'll go that route. And it's, that's great. The other route is to build a team, scale, you have to drop some of those thresholds for you and the company. Um, and that's the path. And the roads do tend to converge, but making a decision in the beginning is super helpful because you kind of get stuck going in between the two. It's really, really hard to grow on both.
It's also it's very similar to that a common phrase of, do you want to go fast or do you want to go far, right?
Right.
If you can
Exactly.
get rich and go very fast by yourself,
Yes.
but you're not going to go nearly as far as if you're able to effectively build
Sure.
that team, right? Which definitely is the difference between like the freelancer model and the agency model. Um, Follow up to the crazy. I love it, by the way. The crazy Craigslist tactic that you had. I'm sure you didn't continue that forever. I'm sure you're not doing that now, but if you are, I want to hear more about it. But were you positioning yourself as because you said like you were putting out your resume. Were you positioning yourself as just like a person for hire, or were you transitioning to we actually have an agency, this is what we do?
Yeah, I think my resume is pretty good. Yeah, back then, like getting to talk about our website. We didn't have like all these fancy, amazing clients that we work with, but I got to work with big clients at big agencies, and so the ability to put all of that work on my resume and say like, "Hey, I'm qualified. You should talk to me," and give them a little bit of like, it actually was completely templated at the time. It was just like copy paste, send. This was a fun part. We automated a little bit of this. It was kind of like a little bit of whiz bang. So finding that aggregate was cool, but then sending this email was like the same email all the time. So we built a little script that would send like 50, 60, 80 emails a day. And again, I had to shut it off at one point because I would have too many calls and then I'd start to narrow in. And we really honed that sucker in, and that was fun to do. But I pitched myself as like, hey, this is my freelance firm. You're probably getting testing like little copywriting here and there. Like, hey, you're probably getting inundated with people asking. Totally get it. This seems right up our alley because of XYZ. I'd love to help you out. I dropped my resume. You can see some of my background. Here's our website. We'd love to help. Call. Let's set up a call.
That's really interesting. Is that something that you would recommend to young up and coming people who are thinking of starting an agency, or maybe have started an agency but don't really feel like they are an agency? Would you recommend this kind of like Trojan horse approach where it's more of like you're selling yourself rather than the agency, but it is ultimately the agency?
Yeah, why not, right? I think claw, tooth, nail, I'd say drag by the collar, like do whatever you can to go get those first few clients. It is really difficult. It's not easy to hang a shingle and wait. That's painful for you. It's going to be painful for everybody involved. So do whatever you have to get those first few clients and constantly learn. Oh, I don't like working with these clients, and oh, this one was great, and I want to keep doing more of such and such. So what I teach a class for a few different accelerators, and it's a class on growth hacking, and I talk about how I that was my growth hacking using Craigslist. That was the same method actually Airbnb started on Craigslist. We have different valuations now, Airbnb and Figmints, but Airbnb started on Craigslist, right? They utilized the same sort of traffic and attention that was already on Craigslist, and they rented beds. They rented an air mattress on Craigslist for $50, and it was where hotels in San Francisco at the time were like 200 a night, and so they that's how they started, and they were like, oh my gosh, we have a thing here. So it was a great way to test. Um, and then in my class, I usually talk about McDonald's growth hacked an underutilized, so defining growth hacking, leverage an underutilized tactic in positioning against your competitors, right? So McDonald's, not a lot of people were leveraging franchising and real estate as part of the thing in the mid-century, and they did that and they won. Uber did an amazing job with give one, get one, right? Gamifying that kind of approach for growth. You have to find your thing in your market, in your space. Agencies, Sean, you know this. I believe the last count is like 350,000 agencies in the world. Anybody can hang a shingle and become an agency. So
And
you
they
have
do.
to, and they do, and you have to differentiate. And
Mhm.
so, how are you going to do it? I mean, yeah, there's a million ways, and the more creative you can get, and the more niched you can get today, especially, the more likely it is you're going to be able to cross the biggest hump, which is being able to make it full time. Pay
Totally.
your bills.
So what does a client acquisition look like for you now? Obviously, you're not doing Craigslist anymore.
Yeah, I mean, luckily, if you can operationalize and do well, many businesses survive on referrals, and so I'd say referral business is probably 30% of the work that we do. Um, we were early on SEO and content writing. We were one of the first. We were in the wave of the first class of partners for HubSpot, and so we're a big believer in inbound. We were ranking number 2 or 3 for brand strategy, the key term brand strategy at one point. Our domain ratings at 70, 60, 70. So that was probably a third of our business. And a third, again, is like good old fashioned, still networking, getting out there, dragging people by the collar, getting them to the table. We have a pretty unique sales process. And so there's a little bit of kind of outreach there. But yeah, I mean, it's so interesting. This agencies kind of live and die in the model of the starving baker, right? Or the cobbler's son has no shoes, right? It's difficult for marketing agencies to realize that, yeah, it's marketing. A marketing agency is hard because of what we just said. There's so many of us. There's a fear of wanting to niche into like a very specific category. That's why I'm really excited about where we're headed. Where I started this conversation was one of our kind of keystone products is the scalable marketing program for business groups or B2B2C. And to me, that finally it feels like there's a relief on my part because I know this intellectually, and now we're putting into practice. Like, yes, we're gonna make a concerted effort here to really try to grow this part of the agency.
It's funny. I mean, the whole cobbler son has no shoes effect is, yeah, it's so prevalent, especially in the marketing world. And I've talked about this before, but I feel like in our our industry strength is also the weakness in that like literally everything is a potential opportunity. And because everything is a potential opportunity, you have no focus. And because you have no focus, you don't leverage the compounding effect that say a plumber who's been in business for a very long time will leverage because he or she only has, a bunch a growing book of plumbing clients who are just going to recommend to other plumbers, and he's going to
Sure.
build authority and expertise in that very, very specific thing, versus if he decided to be a handyman, he's not going to get nearly as much work just because he's
Right.
spreading himself completely thin, and also he's going to be getting all sorts of junk referrals because people think that he does literally everything when really he
Mm.
actually doesn't do literally everything. He does most things, right? So the division of focus is just a huge detractor overall, even when it kind of gives you that warm and fuzzy feeling of like, ooh, safety. I can say yes to everything, but at the end of the
Mhm.
day, you're saying no to uh, the upper limits of growth by saying yes to everything. And I think that once we start to really feel that and start to feel the the first positive feedback loop kicking in when you start to niche down, you have this kind of like, oh crap moment when you're like, why didn't I do this like 5 years
Yes,
ago
totally. Yeah, or at the beginning. But
or
Sean,
at the beginning?
can I push back? I agree with you like 90%. Can I push back on that last
Please.
10%? Is a mentor of mine said to me, and this is like very profound because I think for myself, maybe for you, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say a lot of the listeners would hear this and go, but yeah, it's so hard. Like they're paying me. They this is how I got to that hump, right? Like I got over the hump because I have a dentist and I have a carpenter and I have a plumber and I have this person and like there's 10 clients and that's how I make money. And the fear level is super high to say no to them. So I would the only challenge I would have is saying, um, that's totally fine. Continue to do good work for those clients now, but don't spend another dime or minute trying to market to all of them,
Exactly.
right? Spend effort and energy choosing one and become that one. And yeah, if somebody comes to you, okay, and they're waving money at my face, I have a hard time saying no to people who wave money in my face. So I was like, okay, yes. And then, but they're in our system. They do our stuff, and then we're continuing forward. I think eventually you'll want to say like, actually, that's not our sweet spot. You know, like we really only focus on this. But in that transition mode, I think it's okay to say yes, but just don't focus the outward approach to that group.
Yep.
Is that
I
okay?
I agree at a high level, and I think that there's always additional nuances. There, like the calculus you need to consider is like opportunity cost. If there's no opportunity cost to saying yes, and you're just going to take in revenue,
Yeah.
and this can be a win, why don't we do that? But if there's an opportunity cost associated with that, like, oh, I'm going to be taking my top strategist away, and then now if a good
Mm.
client comes on, I don't have capacity. Maybe we should say no to this, right?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I have to agree. It's
Yep.
you're you're gonna come to that moment where you have to decide, and I'm okay with like waiting to that moment, to make that decision. But yeah, eventually, you're when you realize it's working. By the way, I usually advise people you don't have to marry the first niche that you that you are trialing. You know, you can date some niches before you commit, and so yeah, try like two or three, try three or four, see which ones stick. It's like, wow, we really love this one. We're getting some traction on this. Let's commit to it. I have a good friend and a mentor who runs a pretty big agency, and he made the decision to really triple down in private schools K through 12, or doing marketing for private schools K through 12. He's like, we love this category. We think we can help them uniquely. Uniquely, we have a strong position around it. And he started just saying no. In going forward, he changed the name of the company. Kind of went the whole shebang, and yeah, it's an honorable thing to do for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like we could keep riffing on this, but I did want to ask you
Yeah.
about something you mentioned earlier. I want to make sure we have time to chat about it. Is this slices model?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Maybe I'm gonna say top three most important things in our agency that we've ever done is implement this program called Slices.
What is it?
Yeah. So Slices is a pay for performance compensation model that has spidered out into kind of every layer of our business in financial management. So the principle is we take every dollar that comes in and we slice it up to the category that was responsible for bringing in that dollar. And so there is a slice or percentage that goes towards lead generation. Where did the lead come from? We pay that back every time the dollar comes in. A percentage for sales, percentage for account management, strategy, fulfillment, operations. and then profit. And so those are the slices of the company. We have some more unique slices like Mothership. Figments is a holding company with multiple brands. And so Mothership has a slice. And so all the brands kind of pay into a back office slice as well. But there's some amazing things that has happened because we've implemented slices. It's kind of the principle of um, some things that we've answered, like the thing that really has caused me the most headaches is compensation for employees. I want to give everybody raises. I want to give everybody $1 million. That's what I always say is like, but I can't. There's no way that I can give you all $1 million. And everybody's like, my raise, please. Like I want to get paid more. It's like, I'd love to pay you more. I just don't, we don't have any magical dollars laying around to pay everybody a set increase every month, year, whatever. So we've created this system, and since it's performance driven, there's no cap on what you could earn. If you want to earn more, take on more slices, take on other types of work, other slices. And yeah, or we can continue to grow. Like you can sell products for 10 times, if we need more slices to pay these parts. Great. Let's go get that kind of work. Let's build a sub brand that you can help champion and get it out there. So it's created, this amazing kind of systematic payment schedule or compensation schedule. It's created pay for performance, so rewarding people who are performing really well. Very objective sort of systems. Created a budgeting tool. It's very profit first oriented. Michael McCallister's book.
I was just going to say, I
Yeah.
feel like this is a much more nuanced response to profit first, which is very basic, but still so much better than nothing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
It's profit first, I think is good. It's really basic in that it says basically carve out your profit at the beginning so that you make sure that you're profitable. And he goes on to say like create separate accounts for like operations and administrative and then profit. I'm like, that's not enough accounts. And also separate accounts is administratively taxing for people managing your finances. So like a spreadsheet is fine if you start there. But yeah, we just a amazing story. I had a friend who introduced me to a great guy who left his job. He was trying to make it as a contractor start his own brand. And James, he's like, James, if I could make $50K a year, I'd be really happy. That's my goal. He's trying to earn his way, like many of your listeners. And I was like, man, I would hire you if we had $50K worth of work to do, but I don't think we do right now. But come with me. Let's do this together. I'll give you some projects. I have this new model I'm trying to start out, and let's try it. And come alongside us. He did $80K in his first year, and then he did $120K in his second year, and he's consistently like at $150K plus. With all his slices and all the things that he takes on, because he's hardworking, he's bright, he's able to pick up other slices. And this is a person we may have lost. If we didn't have slices, we would have lost them, like so many talented people that we've lost along the years, because I was too scared to pay them $120K, right? We just weren't at the size or level to be able to say like, yeah, I'm going to pay you 100. I think you're worth $120K. No, but we've created this objective system where we can show you how to get to 120K. And if you can get there, great, we're going to pay you those dollars. So yeah, he's played the game really well. And he's on our executive team now. It's like a fun success story around slices. And the general principle is sales commission. If you pay someone to do sales, this is a really similar model. You pay them a base that works as a draw, give them commissions on what they sell, right? It's like very performance oriented. Well, do that for everything, do that for the production work that you do, the account management work, the strategy work. So this has been so revolutionary for us. I'm working on a book, hopefully launching a book in 2026. That would be awesome. On our 15-year anniversary, get a book out there. And then we're building an app that manages this, and I'm running cohorts that trains agencies on how to do this for themselves.
very cool. This sounds like kind of what I ended up doing after a year or two of running profit first, being like, I actually need more detail. I need more slices.
Yeah.
So, and just to kind of recap so that I fully understand, does this basically mean that like you can set a profit margin target for the agency, and then you can basically engineer all your slices to support that profit margin. And then of course you're going to find out whether it's possible or not. You might find out that you're making some assumptions and et cetera,
Correct.
et cetera. But it's much less counting the hours, and it's much more counting the outcomes and assigning value to those outcomes.
Oh, sure. Hours for dollars is the devil.
Yeah.
It's the worst system. There are lots of systems. That is the one. If you're on that, and I would hope many agencies have learned to kind of migrate off of that model. Value driven pricing is great, but does feel arbitrary sometimes. Um, yeah, the reality is every company has slices. Every company, whether you implement them or not, or implement our version or not, or whether you're looking at it properly or not, they exist, right? You have some portion of your revenue that goes towards profit. Hopefully, it's larger. It's as big as you want it to be or bigger. Some portion goes to ops, some portion goes to your account management strategy and fulfillment, et cetera. And then now we can go look at a baseline. So if you understand what those slices are currently, and you say, I'm kind of tired of my profit being at 3%. I want it to be at 6% at least. Well, it's like, well, industry is more like 10 to 20%. So let's try to get it to that. Where do we have to pull from? Where are you overspending now? That's costing your profit slice. Oh wow, our fulfillment's really high, or oh my gosh, are we every account manager only manages 4 clients, 4 accounts, and they don't pay for those account managers. We're stealing from ourselves to pay, these different pieces, and slices makes it really clear, kind of evident.
Awesome, man. I love that. Well, where can people find out more about you and maybe even more about Slices as well?
Yeah, so Slices, the universe of Slices is being built, but you can find me on LinkedIn, James Kwon. Most of my handles are Jam Kwon, JamKwon. So LinkedIn in /Jam Kwon. Figmints, fig like the fruit, mints like the candy, Figmints. And yeah, if you search those two things, there's without a doubt you'll be able to find me. So yeah, all those notes and messages will show up in my inbox somehow.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on, man.
Sean, thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
We'll have to have you on for when the book comes out.
100%. Thank you so much.
Make me part of your PR tour.
For sure.